Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gautama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/supportbuddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program, and we're starting the second class of the very beginning of the restart of our group learning program. This is the 7th time that we've been teaching this group learning program online to help students learn how to move the mind to this enlightened mental state where the mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, no longer experiencing any discontent feelings. An important part of your practice to develop as part of developing your life practice and move the mind to enlightenment is to understand meditation and then consistently meditate over a long-term period of time. So here at the very beginning of our group learning program, I'm going to be sharing a 4-part series which is going to guide you in developing your meditation practice. The first meditation that we're going to be discussing on this first 4-part series is Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. Then after this 4-part series, we're going to do a 4-part series on loving kindness meditation in order to help you build up that practice. And then we're going to do a 4-part series on Buddhist chanting. So I'd like to welcome all of you because today I'm going to go through the ins and outs of Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. And by the time we get to the end of our class, we'll actually do a Breathing Mindfulness Meditation session together. I have some visual aids to help us to discuss this topic because as part of what I shared with students on Sunday when I was introducing you to the teachings of the Buddha and into the group learning program, I shared with you that I wasn't interested in you believing me about anything related to the teachings of the Buddha, that it's your learning, your reflection to independently verify in your practice that is ultimately going to help you develop wisdom and move the mind to the enlightened mental state. So here at the very beginning where I'm going to be teaching you meditation, I'm not even interested in you believing me that the Buddha even taught meditation. It's pretty well known in the world that he did teach meditation, but you're not interested in believing anybody about anything and you'd like to see the truth for yourself. So here at the beginning of our class, I've shared just a few little teachings from the Buddha on meditation. There's a plethora of teachings that the Buddha shared on meditation. And in this book series that I share, The Words of the Buddha, The Path to Enlightenment, Revealing the Hidden, Volume 7 is all about breathing mindfulness meditation. It's a consolidated source of teachings from the Buddha on meditation. So I've extrapolated a few teachings just to help you see that the Buddha did indeed teach meditation, so that then I can go in to start teaching you meditation and you'll have confidence that the Buddha did indeed teach meditation. And there's a few things here that he's sharing that are helpful for you in developing your meditation practice. This first statement he shares: meditate, monks, do not be complacent, lest you regret it later. This is my instruction to you. So he's encouraging his students to not be dull or complacent or lackluster or uninterested in doing meditation because they're going to regret it later. When the mind's angry and sad and feeling guilt and shame and fear and boredom and loneliness and all these other discontent feelings, you'll regret it later if you haven't actually been developing your meditation practice. You'll never find a time in the teachings of the Buddha where he's pushing people or he's forcing people or he's using guilt, shame, or fear in order to motivate people to learn and practice his teachings. This is the only thing that you'll get, the closest thing that you'll get, where the Buddha is just kind of like, all right, guys, like, come on, you really shouldn't be complacent or you're going to regret it later. So here he's encouraging you to develop your meditation practice, and in doing so, then you'll experience the wholesome results of having done so. Then he teaches a pot without a stand is easy to tip over. A pot without a stand is easy to tip over. The pot is the mind. The stand is your meditation practice. So a mind without a meditation practice is easy to tip over. It's easy to become discontent or agitated or irritated if you don't have a meditation practice. So right now, depending on where you are in your meditation practice, you might have kind of like a little dowel rod that's just kind of there, kind of supporting this pot, and it's kind of wobbling on this little tiny piece of stick or this little piece of wood. But as you learn and you develop your meditation practice, you're making that stand wider and wider and wider, so that now the pot has a more stability, more steadiness, and then it won't be so easy to tip over your mind or have the mind experience discontentedness. So you can get to the point where the mind's completely stable and steady, never shaken up by anything at all. But a pot without a stand, or a mind without a meditation practice, it's easy to become discontent. Here's another teaching from the Buddha, specifically referencing breathing mindfulness meditation. He says, "Monks, there is one thing that when developed and cultivated leads exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge or experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana. What is that one thing? Mindfulness of breathing, or breathing mindfulness meditation. That is that one thing, when developed and cultivated, leads exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge, experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana." So here, he's not saying that you only need one thing in order to get to enlightenment. Otherwise, he would only have just taught breathing mindfulness meditation and that's it. But he has a whole plethora of teachings over his 45-year teaching career that is the path to enlightenment, and it will guide you to this enlightened mental state. Instead, he's saying this meditation, it's going to lead you to enlightenment. This is a priority in your practice. And he mentions it in other parts of his teachings and discussing how it is a priority. He makes breathing mindfulness meditation a priority, as well as loving kindness meditation. In this particular meditation, when you develop and cultivate it, it leads to this liberation. What liberation is freedom of mind. Because when your mind is experiencing all the discontent feelings of sadness, anger, frustration, and others, it's not liberated, it's not free, it's burdened with these feelings. So what you're looking to do is get freedom from these strong feelings, to elimination of these discontent feelings, to peace, to direct knowledge. What direct knowledge is this is where you have experience for yourself. You can see the truth, that if you learn and develop and practice this meditation, you'll have direct knowledge or experience to see that it indeed leads to this elimination of discontent feelings, which is enlightenment, or in the Pali language, nibbana. So here the Buddha is explaining that breathing mindfulness meditation is very important for your practice. And there's lots of other teachings he shares, but just to kind of get you started and to be able to see some of that, here is his words. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into sharing with you some meditation basics around developing your meditation practice, so that now you can learn how to develop a meditation practice. The first thing I'd like to do, and I do this commonly in the books and also in my teaching style, is I will define something right up front, so that as I'm getting ready to teach you meditation, I'm not going to assume that your understanding of the word meditation is the same as my understanding. Because of the universal truth of impermanence, everybody has different definitions for different words and thinks of things in different ways, different views, different opinions. So you'll see in the book, in multiple chapters, and in my classes, I will frequently share definitions right up front, so that you can understand how I'm teaching a particular topic. It doesn't mean that you necessarily agree with the definition that I'm sharing, but at least you'll understand what I'm teaching, and then you might come to understand why I'm sharing this particular definition. And then you can then understand and relate to the teachings that I'm going to be sharing on that particular topic. So here I define meditation is a technique to actively train the mind during dedicated, independent, purposeful training sessions to eliminate unwholesome qualities of the mind and or cultivate wholesome qualities of the mind in the positions of seated, lying, standing, or walking. So this is how I define meditation. It's this dedicated, independent, purposeful training session. You're actively training the mind in these training sessions, and you're working to eliminate certain unwholesome qualities, and you're working to cultivate certain wholesome qualities. And I'm going to be describing for breathing mindfulness meditation those unwholesome qualities that you eliminate and those wholesome qualities that you're cultivating as part of your practice. And I'll do this with each individual meditation that I teach you. And you're doing this in a position of seated, lying, standing, or walking. These are the 4 positions that the Buddha taught for meditation, because it's not possible for your body to be permanently in the same position. You're going to need these different positions at different times, and I'm going to teach you these different positions and how I use them so that then you can start using them in your meditation practice as well. Just like I define what meditation is, it's important to understand what meditation isn't. This can help you to gain some clarity on what meditation is to talk about what meditation isn't. Meditation isn't exercising, walking the dog, gardening, driving, things like this. Sometimes you might hear somebody say, or you might say, that I'm going to go walk the dog and meditate, or I'm going to go drive and meditate, or I'm going to go for a jog or go to the gym and meditate. While these things may be helpful and they're hobbies that somebody might have in order to enjoy certain aspects of life or train the body or relax the mind or what have you, it's not actually meditation. It's not this dedicated, active, purposeful training session to either eliminate certain unwholesome qualities or cultivate certain wholesome qualities. So if somebody only ever exercised, or they only ever walked the dog, or they only ever went driving, they wouldn't actually be able to get to enlightenment if that's what they thought meditation is. So it's important to know what meditation is. It's important to know what it isn't. Also, as you're starting to learn meditation, it's important to have a meditation teacher that you can reach out to get help, because there's going to be certain times in your meditation practice where you have certain challenges and you need to reach out and ask for help, or you'll have certain experiences in your meditation practice that you might need to reach out to your teacher and ask for help and ask for guidance. There's situations where there's people who have tried to meditate or tried to get to enlightenment on their own, and they've run into a lot of difficulties. It's only a Buddha that would be able to get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides, and everyone else is going to need teachers and guides in order to get to enlightenment. So if you were out there meditating on your own and trying to watch YouTube videos and read books and do all these number of things, you could really run into a lot of different challenges. There's individuals who have contacted me over the years that have had these challenges. There's one particular student who was a trained doctor, and they were out there trying to meditate and learn these things on their own through YouTube videos and things. And over a 2-year period of time, they worked their mind into a really difficult situation where they were having significant depressive thoughts. They were sleeping for 23 hours a day. They were having suicidal thoughts. They weren't able to work any longer. Their relationships were starting to fall apart. And they really struggled because they were out there trying to awaken the mind without the help of any teachers. And only a Buddha can actually accomplish that. But eventually they ended up getting in contact with a teacher. They contacted me, and I was able to help them over a long-term period of a couple of years. And now they're back to work. They're no longer having suicidal thoughts. They're sleeping normally. Their relationship with their fiance did actually fall apart, but they're okay with that and they're content with that. But this individual, if they would have started with a meditation teacher and had a person to reach out to get help, as their mind was experiencing various things, they would have been able to have the help they need. So I don't imagine that any of these things are going to happen with you in learning meditation, because you have a teacher, you have somebody that you can reach out to and get help. And sometimes when you're experiencing certain challenges in your meditation practice, you can ask questions in class, you can post them in our Facebook group, you can send me a private message, you can schedule personal guidance. And if you ask me questions about meditation and things that are happening, and the only thing you get back from me is, yes, that's completely normal, keep going, that can give you the reassurance and the confidence that you're on the right path, rather than having you work your mind into some difficulties that happened with this other individual before they actually had a teacher. Then there's these 4 meditation positions that you'll need to develop over time, because you're going to need them at different times. I'm going to describe each one of them and explain to you how I've used them. But then remember, you don't believe me. This is your practice. You're independently developing your practice to learn how to meditate and all the other teachings on the path to enlightenment. So as I share these with you, this is something that you're learning, and then you reflect on it, and then you practice it and see the truth of what works for you. So seated position is typically the go-to position for most people when they meditate. You either meditate sitting on the floor or in a chair or some other location where you can just have the lower body resting comfortably. This is kind of like the go-to position where a lot of people learn and a lot of people use this position. But then while you're meditating in the seated position, you might notice various challenges that come up. You might notice that you have aches and pains in your body at different times. And you should never just sit there when the body is painful. You should always ensure that the body is comfortable, which we're going to talk about here in a moment. So if you're noticing a lot of aches and pains in the seated position, you should adjust your body. But then if you can't get into a comfortable position, you can switch to lying. Lying is where you lie on the floor or lie in a bed or whatever it is, face up with your arms out to the side. If you've ever done yoga, some people call this resting pose or shavasana pose. This is a lying pose where all the muscles in the body are completely relaxed and you won't feel any aches and pains in the body as a result. So lying position is really good for that. But as you're doing seated and lying, you might notice at different times that your mind becomes sleepy. This is not uncommon when somebody's first starting to learn meditation because the mind is burdened with so much pollutions and you're doing so much work in your meditation and it's all new. So the mind can oftentimes become sleepy. Or you can notice that as you're starting to meditate, that your mind is more interested in sleeping, where prior to meditation, maybe you were still sleeping, but you weren't getting very good quality sleep. So you might notice that the mind has a tendency to sleep more or be interested to sleep more. So in that situation, you could just go to sleep if you'd like, or if you'd like to continue to meditate, you can switch to a standing or a walking position. These are really good for you if you're noticing that the mind is sleepy in meditation and you'd like to extend your meditation session. And then you might notice that in some situations your mind is overactive or you have a lot of energy. And the last thing you're interested in doing is being still and being in one spot and doing like a seated, lying, or standing position. So walking position is really good if you have an overactive or excited mind. And this is something that I teach in various courses and retreats because it really helps to learn in person. When I'm teaching online like this, it's not so easy to teach walking position because I'm here in this room and the camera can't move with me and things like that. So you might notice that you'll need to use walking position when the mind is overactive or having lots of energy. And you might use it as a standalone meditation, or you might do walking first and then switch to like a seated, lying, or standing. Or while you're doing seated, lying, or standing, you might decide that you'd like to move to walking. So you can interchange your positions at different times. And these various positions are important at different times in your practice. So for example, one time I had a motorbike accident in 2019 and I was lying in a hospital bed hooked up to an IV. I couldn't cross my legs to save my life because there was injuries to my legs. I wasn't able to cross the legs. So I had lying position. I was able to lie there in the hospital bed and do meditation still. And then when I came home, I still couldn't cross the legs. So I would lie in bed and meditate, or I would sit on a sofa sometimes and meditate. So you're going to need these different positions. As you age, you're going to need these different positions. You're not always going to necessarily be able to be in the same position. So it's important to work these different positions into your meditation practice as you get going. You might decide to start with just seated and kind of build up your practice with that, and then move to a lying or a standing. And when you're standing, you just stand straight with your arms kind of in front of you, either clasp at the wrist, or you might put your arms along the sides of your body, or you might put your arms behind you, clasping at the wrist there, just a lightly clasping. And then the walking meditation, for those of you guys that aren't here for courses and retreats in Chiang Mai, there's a video on our YouTube channel where I teach walking meditation. So when you're ready to learn that, you can find that video on our YouTube channel and you can learn how to meditate. So let me pause here and see if there's any questions before I go into sharing this with you guys further. You can put this into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section and ask any questions or follow-up questions that you like. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions or follow-up questions directly. All right, I'm not seeing any questions here on what I've shared so far. So let's go ahead and talk about the various types of meditations so that you can understand this. And here is where I'm going to share with you the purpose of what are you eliminating from the mind and what are you cultivating in the mind. So breathing mindfulness meditation is the primary form of meditation the Buddha taught. He taught a total of 4 meditations. Even though there's a plethora of meditations out there in the world right now, these weren't taught by the Buddha. There's these 4 styles of meditations that he taught because they address the primary problems that he discovered in the mind. Breathing mindfulness meditation is the primary meditation because it addresses the primary problem. It helps you to eliminate this craving, desire, attachment, and helps you to cultivate mindfulness and concentration. So on Sunday, when I share with you the teachings that I'm going to share there, which we're going to be starting with the Eightfold Path, going into detail about that, starting with right view, you're going to learn about what causes the anger, sadness, frustration, and other discontent feelings. Because how could you ever eliminate those feelings if you didn't understand what causes them? So you're going to learn about what craving, desire, attachment is in that class on Sunday. So breathing mindfulness meditation is helping you to eliminate this craving, desire, attachment. Because what you're going to hear me teach you as part of our meditation today is that as you're in meditation, you're going to be focused on the breath. And as you focus the mind on the breath, anytime it moves off the breath, you cut that off, let it go, and bring the mind back to the breath. So anytime the mind moves or it wanders, it goes to the past, it goes to the future, then you cut that off and let it go and come back to the breath. Because the breath is the present moment. So when your mind is on the breath, it will tend to want to go to the past or want to go to the future. And where you see that occurring, you train your mind to let go. Your goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Your goal is to quiet the mind or still the mind. But in order to do that, you need to train the mind to let go. So that's what you're doing in this breathing mindfulness meditation, is helping the mind to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. That's the unwholesome quality that you're eliminating. And then what you're cultivating is this mindfulness or awareness of mind. You're going to need this mindfulness or awareness of mind in daily life because you're going to need to be able to observe the mind in daily life. And then when you see certain unwholesome qualities, you're going to need to cut those off and let them go. And you're going to need to cultivate certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So ultimately, you're going to need to learn the 4 foundations of mindfulness, which I'm going to be teaching you as part of this program in about 3 weeks from now. I'm going to be sharing with you in detail what mindfulness is. We're going to be talking about the 4 foundations of mindfulness. But for now, you could just think about mindfulness as awareness of mind. And this is really helpful for you. So you need to cultivate it in meditation so that then you have awareness of mind in daily life. And you're also cultivating concentration or the ability to have singleness of mind. Because what your mind might be doing now is it might be jumping around and having difficulties staying focused and concentrated. If you're in a conversation, your mind might wander, or if you're in a business meeting, your mind might be wandering. And this is harming your progress in life because you're not able to bring your focus and concentration to any particular task or conversation that you're having. So in the meditation, you're exercising the mind to not only develop mindfulness or awareness of mind, but you're developing this concentration or singleness of mind by focusing on the breath and training the mind to be able to focus on the breath. If you've learned how to multitask, some people think that this is actually helping them, but their mind is actually rapidly cycling from thing to thing to thing. Your mind can't do more than one thing at a time. It can only do one thing at a time. So when the mind is trying to multitask, it's actually doing one thing for like 3 to 5 seconds, doing another thing for 5 seconds, doing another thing for 8 seconds, and it starts rapidly cycling from thing to thing to thing. And then what you might find is when you're trying to rest or relax, your mind might be overactive and constantly go, 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 go. Because all day long, your mind has been rapidly cycling, trying to multitask. So what you're doing in breathing mindfulness meditation is focusing the mind on the breath, developing this concentration so that you can just do one thing at a time and bring forth your wisdom into that situation. Where oftentimes we think we're being more productive by doing multiple things at one time, or at least attempting to do that. But in reality, if you're talking on the phone, you're watching TV, and you're eating, you're not doing any one of those things very well. And when you get off the phone, you might have to go back and talk to that person again. And, what did we talk about? I know there was something I agreed to do for you, but I'm not quite sure. I don't remember. Or you might have talked harsh or aggressive on the phone call, and now you got to go clean this up. Or the phone call might have been elongated when you could have really just had a 5 or 10 minute phone call. But instead, because your mind was moving around and it wasn't focused on the conversation, you now elongated this conversation. So it's going to actually be more of a hindrance to try to rapidly cycle the mind like this. Instead, you would like to develop this singleness of mind, or this focus, this concentration in meditation. And then you're going to use these wholesome qualities in daily life. That in daily life, where you see the mind is having any unwholesome thoughts, you can cut those off and let them go easily, because you've been training the mind that way in meditation. So if in meditation you're exercising the mind to develop this awareness and concentration, you can use this in daily life, in a business meeting, in a phone call, in your personal, professional relationships. And where you see anger and frustration and other discontent feelings arising, you can then cut it off and let it go. And eventually, if you do this enough, then these feelings will never arise anymore, because you've eliminated the conditions that are causing it. So this is what you're eliminating as terms of unwholesome qualities in the mind, and this is what you're cultivating as it relates to breathing mindfulness meditation. When we get to our 4-part series on loving kindness meditation, I will explain that one to you. And then if you decide that you ever need to learn these other meditations, like meditation to eliminate sexual cravings and meditation to realize non-self, these are part of chapter 11 in volume 1, and they're only used in specialized situations. The first 2 meditations of breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation are needed by all individuals who are interested in getting to enlightenment, because they address 2 of the 3 major problems that the Buddha discovered. There's these 3 high-level problems that we're going to be discussing in chapter 8. It's called craving, anger, and ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality. And breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation address 2 of those 3 primary issues, and then you're doing the cultivation of wisdom to address the ignorance or unknowing of true reality. But then on a case-by-case basis, there's some situations where someone might need these other types of meditations of eliminating sexual cravings or realizing non-self, and then I help students to learn those either on a case-by-case basis, or I guide them to the book, or there are certain courses and retreats where I teach these to help students develop their practice around those. Let's see, so we have a question here from Vladimir. What is the unattractiveness of the body as part of meditation? So what unattractiveness of the body is that when a unenlightened mind has central desire, which is the longing, yearning through the sense bases, the 6 sense bases are the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind itself. The mind is longing, yearning through this. You'll learn this as you learn the Four Noble Truths and ultimately the 6 sense bases. This is called central desire. It's one of the pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind, and the mind is wanting permanently agreeable contact. The mind wants to be permanently comfortable, but it's not possible because of impermanence. So as long as the mind has this central desire, then it's going to experience discontentedness. So the reason why we have certain sexual cravings is because of the central desire. The mind is longing, yearning through the sense bases, wanting to see an agreeable or hear agreeable things, or smell or taste or touch, in the mind having all this agreeable contact. So as you train your mind, if you need to move your mind away from sexual cravings, maybe you have 2, 3, 4, 5 different boyfriends or girlfriends, and you'd like to shrink that down to 1 when you realize the harm that you're causing by having so many different boyfriends and girlfriends. So the way that you do that is you train the mind to cultivate the unattractiveness of the body, because with central desire, an individual will see the body as being attractive, and now there's a longing and yearning for it, because we do our hair a certain way, We wear certain jewelry or clothes. We do certain things with makeup or scents or colognes, perfumes. We do all these things to make the body appealing. But in reality, if you see true reality of the body, then you can reduce and eliminate your sexual cravings or this central desire. So not everybody is going to need this meditation, but for some people who are challenged with that, you might actually need this meditation. And that's why the Buddha taught it, in order to help you to reduce and then ultimately eliminate your sexual cravings. I'm going to check to see if we have any other questions here. I have a question here on Facebook. It says, during lying down meditation, is it okay to lie down on your side in the fetus position? I haven't ever done that, but there's no harm in doing that, right? If you're lying on the floor in that position and your body's comfortable, it's not luxurious, it's not painful, but it's comfortable. You're still doing the same thing with the mind, but you're just getting the body into a position where it's comfortable. So if the fetus position is what works for you, then okay, so be it, then use that. The Buddha taught to lie down on the back, face up, but for some people that might be very uncomfortable for them. So if they need something different, then yes, something like this could be fine. All right, so let's move to the next topic, which is helping you understand how to start your meditation and how to conduct it from the beginning through to the end, and the various things that you're going to be needing to understand and as part of conducting your meditation practice. So the first thing to understand as you're developing a meditation practice is that the mind is the boss and the body is the employee. This is really important to understand, because with the mind being the boss and the body being the employee, you're going to need to go through the employee in order to get to the boss. So that's why there's those 4 meditation positions, because if the body is painful, or if the employees are painful, they're not going to take you to go see the boss. Or if the body or the employee is luxurious, it's not going to take you to go see the boss. So you'd like the employee, you'd like the body to be in the middle where it's comfortable, not luxurious and not painful. And if you can use this analogy of the boss and the employee, then you understand that the employee is not going to take you to go see the boss if it's either painful or luxurious. So you'd like it to be comfortable. And this can help you to understand what your goal is to get to the mind, to train the mind. So you're going to need to go through this body or through this employee. So that's why you have these different positions to get comfortable, so that then you can go see the boss. You can go train the mind. When you read the teachings of the Buddha about meditation, he goes into detail of how he guided people in meditation. You can see this in volume 7. If you end up reading that book at some point, you can see his detailed guidance on meditation. And when he talks about meditation and preparing for meditation, he talks about setting up mindfulness in front of you before you actually meditate. What mindfulness is awareness of mind. And setting up awareness of mind in front of you is to bring awareness of mind to the mind before you ease into meditation. You'll see that I use chanting in order to help bring awareness of the mind and awareness of breath as you're easing into meditation, so that then you can get benefit from your meditation right from the very beginning. If you choose to do chanting, you're going to learn that as part of this program, and you're welcome to do chanting, and you might find it very beneficial. But it's not a required practice. You're not required to chant in order to train your mind to get to enlightenment. So you'll see as I teach that to you, that I'll let you know that this is an optional thing. In terms of everything else that I teach, that's the only thing that I would teach that I will share with you, that, hey, this is optional. But in terms of breathing mindfulness meditation, loving kindness meditation, the Eightfold Path, and all the other things, if someone's interested in getting to enlightenment, they would need to learn these things. But in terms of setting up mindfulness in front of you, if you don't do chanting, then you're going to need to do something else. Because if you just plop down into meditation, you're not going to be getting benefit from the meditation until maybe 10, 15 minutes into the meditation. So you would like to do something. And I'll share with you chanting, so you'll learn how to do that. And that's a potential of something that you can learn. But if that ultimately isn't something that you decide to do long term, be sure you find something, right? Go to the bathroom, empty out the organs, take off your shoes perhaps, get in a nice comfortable position, start to bring some awareness to the mind, and then ease the mind into meditation, however you choose to do that. And I'm going to provide you a tool and technique to do that, which is chanting. But you may or may not decide to go forward with that. You'll have to decide for yourself, but be sure you set up mindfulness in front of you, or this awareness of mind. Then in terms of time, frequency, and schedule, it's important to understand that when you start your meditation, you're going to start wherever you start. What you will hear me say is that I recommend people to meditate 2 or 3 times per day and build up to 30 minutes or more. But you're not going to be able to probably do that right off the bat. The Buddha meditated 3 times a day. It's very clear in his teachings. He says that he meditates morning, midday, and evening. He meditates these 3 different times. But when you build up your meditation practice, you're probably not going to start with 3 meditations a day for 30 minutes or more. This is very unlikely. Very few people ever start in that place. Instead, you might end up with 1 for 5 or 10 minutes, or 2 for 15 minutes, or something like this. Wherever you start is where you start. But over a 6-month, 1 year, 2-year period, you would like to gradually build up to 2 or 3 sessions per day for 30 minutes or more. And you're going to need to create some space in your life for this. You're not going to be able to, like I mentioned, just come out of the gates and start doing that right away, most likely. So your timing should be whatever you feel comfortable with when you're first getting started, and then just gradually build up. And then same thing with your frequency. In terms of a schedule, what you would like to do is have these anchor points where you're looking to meditate in the morning and in the evening. And if you're meditating in the evening, be sure that you're meditating before the mind becomes tired or sleepy, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session. So if your mind's already sleepy or tired, you're not going to be able to have the attentive, alert mind that you need in order to meditate. So if you normally go to bed at, say, 10 o'clock, you should probably be meditating somewhere around 9, 9:15, 9:30, something like that, so that you have some attentiveness to the mind. And know that you're not going to be able to meditate at exactly the same time every day. So if you set up for yourself that you're going to meditate at exactly 8 a.m. every day, due to the universal truth of impermanence, you're not going to be able to do that every day. You might be able to do it for the first 3 days or the first week or something like that, but there's going to be something that occurs that's going to take you away from that time. I know for myself, I've meditated in the past, and my son has walked in and said, "Dad, I need you to take me to school." And I came out of meditation. I was like, "I thought your mom was going to take you to school." And he's like, "Yeah, me too, but she's gone. I need you to take me to school." So even though you might have a certain time that you normally will meditate, that's going to need to be flexible. So use an anchor point of morning and evening, and where you can get a midday schedule in there as well. You don't necessarily need to meditate with an alarm. In some situations, you might need an alarm. And say you're going to work and you only have 20 minutes to meditate. You might need to set your alarm, and that's going to help you to be sure you're not late for work. But where possible, either in the evenings or on the weekends, try to do it without an alarm. Because what you'll notice is when you set the alarm, your mind's probably going to be sitting there thinking, is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? This is the mind craving and longing and yearning, which you're trying to get rid of. Or you're going to be deep in meditation, getting all kinds of benefit, and then the alarm's going to go off. And if you didn't set that alarm, you could have gotten so much more benefit. So by not using an alarm, you can just allow the mind to meditate for whatever amount of time it needs to meditate. If you're interested to keep track of your meditations, to kind of know how long you've been meditating because you're trying to build up to 30 minutes or more, just look at the clock before you start meditating. Say it's 9 o'clock. And now you meditate, and then you're done, and you look at the clock again, and it's 9:20. So you'll know that you meditated for 20 minutes. This is the way that you keep track of your meditation and how long you've been meditating. So maybe about once a week, you would like to kind of time your meditation and just be sure that you're gradually expanding to that 30-minute mark. And you're going to need to create space in your life. You're going to need to gradually build up to that. So don't put this expectation on yourself that you should meditate at exactly the same time or exactly the same way or anything like this. Just gradually work towards building up your meditation. And if you miss a certain day of meditation, if you miss a session, it's not the end of the world, right? Your meditation practice is impermanent. It's going to be changing as you go. So your enlightenment isn't going to be determined on whether you meditate today or not, because you're going to occasionally miss a meditation here or there. Instead, your enlightenment is going to be determined based on, do you have the ability to develop a practice that over the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, that you're consistently meditating over a long-term, consistent period of time. So in a month, if you miss a meditation session here or there, that's normal. But you allow the mind to become complacent, and that turns into 1 week or 1 month or 1 year that you haven't meditated, that's going to be detrimental to your development on the path to enlightenment. But if you miss a meditation session, you're like, oh man, I missed my meditation. Let me get back on that. Let me get moving. So if you can meditate consistently over the course of 1, 2, 3 years, this is what's going to ultimately lead to your enlightenment. So if you miss a meditation here and there, don't beat yourself up about it. It's going to happen occasionally. But then just continue to grow and continue to be dedicated and determined to being consistent with your meditation practice. You might notice, as I mentioned, that there's sleepiness during your meditation. This is common, particularly in the first 3 to 6 months of meditating, because the mind is heavily polluted. And as you're now doing this work, the mind is trying to lift this pollution out of the mind, and it's a lot of work for the mind. So you might notice that you become sleepy. Or you haven't been sleeping very well. Maybe you've been getting a certain number of hours of sleep, but your quality of sleep hasn't been so great. So now when you start meditating, your quality of sleep is going to improve, and the mind is going to have a tendency to be interested to sleep more readily. So you might notice during your meditation that you become sleepy. So you could either just get some sleep, and then when you wake up, start meditation again, or you can switch to one of those other meditation positions like standing or walking, like we were talking about. You might also notice during your meditation that there are certain physical sensations that occur in the body. You might notice an itch here or there. You might notice that it feels like the head is expanding. You might even hear certain things inside the brain where the brain is physically changing shape. You're training the mind, but there's an effect to the brain. Scientists are showing this through MRIs, CAT scans, and other devices, that there's physical changes that are happening to the brain as you're training the mind. And sometimes you can even hear those occurring inside the skull. So if you have certain sensations in the body, what you would like to do, like say if you have an itch, try not to scratch that itch. Just try to notice that it arises, that it changes, and that it fades away. This is the impermanent nature of all conditioned objects, which you're going to learn about on Sunday. So this itch is going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. And if you can train the mind to focus on the breath throughout that process, then it's like training the mind to not be affected by these external things. But sometimes when you're in meditation, you might notice this overwhelming urge to itch. And if you've gone 5 seconds or so and then you just have to itch, okay, go ahead and do that. But now next time, try to make it 8 seconds or 12 seconds or 15 seconds. And then, okay, you have to itch. And then ultimately, try to expand this so wide that you reside unaffected, that you notice the itch. It arises, it changes, and it fades away, but your mind isn't needing to do anything particular. You can actually get to the point where you can feel a piece of dust even land on the tip of your nose, and you can notice the sensation arises, it changes, and it fades away. There's even times where you might have flies crawling around on your head or mosquitoes buzzing around doing different things. And if you can stay unaffected by that and train the mind to focus on the breath, this can really help you. I refer to these insects as they're my assistants. They're assisting me in meditation to train the mind to be focused and stay focused on the breath. So you might notice these kinds of physical sensations during meditation. And you might even notice visual stimulation as well, because the eye itself, the eyeball, is just a lens that pulls the light into the brain. When the eyes are closed, you can actually still see things. You might see green or purple or white, or you might have certain memories that come up, and they're very vivid. You can sometimes see because sight is happening inside the brain. You don't need to have your eyes open in order to see things. You need to be able to see things around you. You need your eyes open to take in the light. But with your eyes closed, there's still certain visual stimulation that it can occur, particularly because when you're training the mind, the physical structures of the brain are changing, and that's where sight is occurring. So you might see these various colors or images that are coming up during your meditation. This is all completely normal. You're not doing anything wrong at all. You don't need to run out and check with somebody to see what does this mean. Some people think that if they see green, oh my goodness, does that mean I'm going to get rich because I saw green in my meditation? No, that's not what it means. There's no meaning whatsoever other than the fact that the mind is very creative. It can be very active. You can see things even with your eyes closed. And whenever these visual stimulations or these physical sensations come up, just cut that off, cut that thought off, and bring the mind back to the breath. That's what you would like to do. And then lastly, on this particular topic, there's meditation with external stimulus. So if you have been taught to meditate with music or beads or candles or incense or a special gong or blanket or something like this, this is what I call an external stimulus. Well, all of these different things, the mind can oftentimes hold on to and cling to it. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to strip your practice down so that you can get to the point where you're just meditating with the mind, the body, and the breath. That these are the only three things that you need in order to meditate: the mind, the body, and the breath. And you'll have all three of these things with you all the way to the end of this life. Whereas if you could only meditate with a certain music, or you could only meditate with a special candle, then that means your mind is attached to it. And you would like to strip this out of your practice. If you're currently doing this now, what you would like to do is gradually move the mind away from it. Because the unenlightened mind doesn't like impermanence, it doesn't like change, what you might decide to do is gradually move the mind away from it. So you do one session with music, one session without it, one session with that candle, or one session without it. Whatever it is, you do one with it and one without it. And then you do one with it and two without it, one with it and two without it, and then one with it and three without it, until eventually you don't need it anymore. You could try to completely cut over and do without the music and the candles and all that stuff, but oftentimes the mind doesn't like that. So you'll probably experience 2 or 3 weeks where your mind's really struggling in meditation. So this method of practice that I'm sharing with you to gradually move the mind away, just kind of ease the mind away from it, it's kind of incremental, and the mind doesn't realize what you're doing. So therefore, these small incremental changes, it'll tend to adopt these and accept these better than kind of cutting over to completely go without music and things like this. You can try it for yourself and see which one works best for you, but I think you'll find that the little gradual steps tend to work better. And then you can apply this to other aspects of your life too. Like say you would like to get rid of coffee or some other attachment that the mind has. You would like to gradually ease the mind away from it, slowly but surely, because then it's a more sustainable decision that the mind will be more comfortable with, and it'll sustain longer term. So let me see what questions you guys have on what I've been sharing so far, and then I'll share the very last thing, and we'll go into actual meditation after that. So it looks like Vladimir has a question here, or I'm sorry, Miriam has a question here. Is 30-minute total meditation time or the goal for each session? So it's the goal for each session. That's what you would like to build up to. So from the beginning of your meditation to the end, you would like to get 30-minute session. And now that would be in the morning. And then if you did an evening session, try to build up to a 30-minute session there. But again, the ability to start with that is usually very few people can start with that. So if you started with one session for 10 minutes or 2 sessions for 15 minutes, that's where you're starting, and then just gradually expand from there. What you'll notice is that frequency is more important than duration. So if it's a matter of one session for 30 minutes or 2 for 15, go for the 2 for 15, and then gradually expand that 15 to longer and longer. That's where you'll see the most benefit. Let's see if we have any questions on YouTube or Facebook. Let's see, I'm seeing something here. I'm not understanding your question on Facebook, May you lie. I know I'm not pronouncing your name properly. You're just saying prior to meditation. You're quoting a sutta here. I'm not seeing the entire chat, I guess, or maybe your question isn't there. If you could type out your question, I'll answer it at the next question period, but I'm not seeing the actual full question there. All right, so let's go ahead and move into the very last thing that I'll share with you in terms of helping you build up your meditation practice, and then we'll actually do meditation together, which is don't ever give up on your meditation practice. Giving up on your meditation practice is to decide that you're going to go back to anger. You're going to go back to sadness and frustration, and you're going to just commit yourself that you're just going to be angry for the rest of your life, or you're just going to be sad for the rest of your life, or you're going to be irritated or annoyed or any of these other discontent feelings. If you decide to give up on your meditation practice, you're relegating yourself to these discontent feelings for the rest of this life. You might go through periods of time where you need to step back from your meditation practice, but then you might need to reinvigorate it. But don't ever give up. And that's what the Buddha is essentially saying here when he says, meditate, monks, do not be complacent, lest you regret it later. This is my instruction to you. Another way you might read that is, meditate, students, do not be complacent, lest you regret it later. This is my instruction to you. So I don't suggest that you ever give up. There was a period of time where I went 2.5 years without meditating, and it was one of the worst 2.5 years of my entire life. But ultimately, I decided to get back into meditation and start working on the mind again. So I don't suggest that you ever allow that amount of time to go where you're not meditating. But if it happens and that's what you end up doing, then you need to decide to get back into meditation. You'll notice that when you are meditating, that your life is going to go so much better. Your life and the condition of your mind is going to improve. But when you first get started with meditation, it's kind of like when we were first growing up and our parents had to kind of push us to brush our teeth and take a bath, take a shower, these kinds of things. Our parents had to constantly push us to do it. But then by the age of about 10 or 12 or 13, we started liking the way our mouth tasted. We kind of liked smelling good. So we just kind of tendency to take a shower and brush our teeth on our own without our parents telling us or motivating us to do it, because we enjoyed the benefits of taking a shower and brushing our teeth. Well, meditation is the same way when you first get started, but there's no parents around that's going to push you. Nobody's going to push you to meditate. You have to arise the enlightenment factor of energy, or the determination, or the dedication and the diligence to actually meditate. You need to do it enough that you accumulate the benefits and you see the results, and now you know that, gosh, you're highly interested in meditating. You can't imagine not meditating because you've seen the benefits of the meditation. So once you get your meditation practice underway and you start accumulating these benefits, it has a tendency that you stay dedicated to it. But just notice that early on, I've had students that have seen benefits as early as 2 days, and I've had some that have taken longer than that. So no matter what it takes for you, just continue to stay dedicated to it, accumulate the benefits, and never ever give up. And that's what's going to ultimately lead to an improved condition of mind. You're going to need meditation, among other teachings. You wouldn't be able to meditate your way to enlightenment, but you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation either. You're going to need meditation, but you need other teachings as well. And that's what Sundays are about, in order to help you gain the wisdom that you need in order to get to enlightenment. So you're going to need this meditation, but it's not the only thing you're going to need. So developing your practice early like this and becoming dedicated and diligent to it is very important. So that's why we're spending a 4-part series here at the beginning of our group learning program to help you build this up and get some confidence with breathing mindfulness meditation, so that then you can bring in loving kindness meditation once we get to that point about 4 weeks from now. So let me see what questions you guys have before we actually do a meditation session together. I'll check back to Facebook and YouTube and see if we have any questions there. I don't see any in Zoom. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions in Facebook or YouTube. So let's go ahead and do a meditation session together, where I will guide you guys through meditation, giving you guys a chance to learn meditation as part of our class today, so that then you can be doing this throughout your coming days and gradually build up your practice. And each Wednesday, we'll be coming back together and meditating together and give you a chance to ask any and all questions related to meditation. So take a position, either seated on the floor or seated on a chair or wherever you're going to sit, or you might decide to do lying meditation or standing meditation. If you're doing seated meditation and you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. Some people like to get their rear up in the air because this lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and that allows the circulation to flow, because you're going to cross your legs lightly. You're not interested in having your legs real tight. If you're in a chair, you might just put your feet flat on the floor or cross them lightly at the ankles. You would like your lower body to be comfortable, not luxurious and not painful. The hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and then he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use that, but not everybody's going to find this comfortable. So there's other options here as well. You could put your palms on your thighs, you could put them on the knees, you could put your palms up. Essentially, your lower body and the hands and arms should be completely relaxed and comfortable. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation so it can stay active and do that dedicated, active, purposeful training session. So by having the upper body erect, it keeps the mind attentive and alert. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be complacent or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind would have a tendency to be overactive and uptight. So that's why you'd like the upper body to be in the middle where it's comfortable, not luxurious and not painful, but nice and erect so that now the mind can stay attentive and alert. What I'm going to do here in a moment is guide you to close your eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. What you're going to hear me doing is I'm going to do some chants to ease into the meditation. There's nothing mystical or magical about the chants. It's not prayer or worship. It's not any rites or rituals or anything like that. It's literally just to ease the mind into meditation, and then I'm going to do it to ease the mind out of meditation as well. Chanting was used during the lifetime of the Buddha in order to remember his teachings and commit them to memory. So every 2 weeks, his students would come together and chant his teachings word for word because nothing was written down during his lifetime. So we still do chanting today, and it helps to ease the mind into meditation and out of meditation. But I'm going to teach it to you more thoroughly when we get to that point of our group learning program, which there'll be a 4-part series on Buddhist chanting. But for now, you can just know that the chants are here to help ease us into meditation and ease us out of meditation. Once I chant, once we are in meditation, I'll be giving you some guidance and some instruction. From there, you'll hear me teaching you how to actually meditate as we're doing meditation together. Then there'll be a period of time where I'll just be quiet and we'll all be meditating together. And then after we meditate, we'll come out of the meditation with some chanting. And at that point, I'll open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to breathing mindfulness meditation to help you guys develop your meditation practice. So if you'd like to take a position, either seated, lying, or standing, making the body comfortable, not luxurious or painful. Remember, the lower body and the hands and arms should be comfortable with the upper body erect. Next, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. You can stay here with the breath. Those of you guys that have already learned these chants, you're welcome to chant along. And then I'll be back with some guidance on meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Photang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติOkay, just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And when you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in out. Breathing in out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. I'm just here for guidance, just reminding you to breathe in through the nose to establish a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, experiencing the full inhale. And when you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in out. Breathing in out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in out. Breathing in out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Instead, whenever you notice that the mind has moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Mahakawa Hotang Mahakawandhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakawata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Samono Sakato Rokavito Anuttaro Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusranam Bhuto Bhagavati. Okay, if you'd like to gradually ease your way out of meditation, this was just a short little meditation just to get us started with meditation, kind of get your feet wet a little bit. Depending on how you look at it, that was about a 15-minute meditation. And if that felt like it was too short for you, great. And work on expanding that. If that felt like it was a bit much, then just keep working towards that and work on expanding it. This meditation of breathing mindfulness meditation, as you see through the guidance, you're focused on the breath. And when the mind moves off the breath, you're cutting that off and letting it go and bringing the mind back to the breath. This is helping to train the mind to easily let go, because the unenlightened mind doesn't like to let go. It wants to hold on to things. It craves that permanence. So you're not trying to eliminate your thoughts here. You're trying to train the mind to easily let them go. Even an enlightened being is going to have occasional thoughts in the meditation. They'll have periods of quietness and stillness for about 5 minutes or so, but then there's going to be an occasional thought. They'll notice it right away. They'll cut it off and bring the mind back. Where when you're first getting started and as your mind is unenlightened, you might have a bombardment of thoughts in your meditation. This is very common. Or you might have had a thought and you followed it for a while and kind of indulged in that thought and realized after 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back. This is common. This doesn't mean you're bad at meditation. Don't put this expectation on yourself that you should be an expert at meditation when you first start. Sometimes that's what the mind wants to do. Instead, what you're doing is you're gradually training the mind and building this up gradually, slowly but surely. And as I mentioned, even an enlightened being is going to have an occasional thought in meditation. During your meditation, you're not trying to sort out your problems. You're not trying to create a grocery list or anything like this. You're literally just focused on the breath. And anytime the mind moves off the breath, you cut it off and let it go and come back. It's really that simple. This is breathing mindfulness meditation. And in that simplicity, it can be really challenging because of that bombardment of thoughts, or because of the mind wanting to follow that thought, or the mind wanting to be in the past or the future. So in that simplicity of just noticing the breath, observing the breath, staying aware of the breath, and then whenever the mind moves off, just cut it off and bring the mind back, just continue to work on that. Gradually, slowly but surely, you'll see improved condition of mind, because you're going to experience the mindfulness or awareness of mind, the concentration or focus and clarity, and you're going to see that the mind is more easily able to let go, which is going to help you when you learn the Eightfold Path. Over the next 3 Sundays, when you learn the Eightfold Path, you'll understand why the Buddha taught breathing mindfulness meditation this way, because it's helping you to cultivate certain qualities that you're going to need on the Eightfold Path in order to move the mind to enlightenment. So let me know what questions you guys have. Again, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. I'll be able to see that. And in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions or follow-up questions directly. Looks like Bruce has a question here. I currently suffer from insomnia due to an overactive mind. I use breathing mindfulness meditation to focus the mind at night, and it seems to help. Is this okay to do? Yes, this is what you're going to notice, is that as part of developing your meditation practice, you're going to be able to start sleeping better and better. And then as you're training your mind in meditation regularly over those 2 to 3 meditation sessions per day, those are your dedicated, active, purposeful training sessions. But then while you're falling asleep at night, you can actually do a little bit of meditation while you're lying in bed. It's not one of your 2 or 3 sessions, but it's just to help you fall asleep. So you can focus the mind on the breath, particularly if you're noticing a lot of chatter or overactive mind as you're falling asleep. Just use the breath and focus on the breath. And that's one of the benefits of having developed a meditation practice, is that you're going to be able to then use it to your advantage and be able to fall asleep more readily when you're developing your mind this way. So that's completely fine, Bruce, and one of the benefits that you'll be able to reap the rewards of. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions in Facebook or YouTube, and I don't see any in Zoom either. So what I'll do then is I'll just end class by encouraging you to build up your meditation practice. Over the coming weeks, just get in the habit of regularly meditating. If you're going to do 1 or 2 or 3, it's up to you. This is your practice. I help you understand what you need in order to get to enlightenment. I kind of set the goal of this is what you're going to need in order to get to enlightenment, and then you gradually work towards that. One of the sayings that we say is that the Buddha shared the teachings of what it takes to get to enlightenment, and everybody else needs to strive. So a Buddha is pointing the way to enlightenment, and then everybody else needs to strive in order to move their practice up to that, to be able to experience this enlightened mental state. So you're going to need to strive. You're going to need to apply some dedication, determination, and diligence to move your practice up to this. And remember, you're not in a race. You're not in a competition with anybody. This is your own independent practice, your own journey. So if it takes you 6 months, a year, 2 years, what have you, to build up your meditation practice, then so be it. That's what you're doing. But gradually chip away at it, and know that you're going to miss a meditation session here or there. And when you do, it's not the end of the world. You just continue to consistently meditate over a long-term period, and that's what's going to determine whether or not you're going to get to enlightenment or not, that you have consistency over the long term. So thank you all for choosing to attend class, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this on the replay. I would like to thank all of you guys for dedicating time and effort towards learning and practicing the teachings. And we'll see you guys either in Sunday's class, where we're going to be diving into the Eightfold Path, or next Wednesday, when we're going to be doing the second part of our Breathing Mindfulness Meditation series. So we'll see you in a future class. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Sawadee ka.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.